Delicious in Dungeon is a really special show. I didn't think it was going to be. I've seen this show popping up in my feed here and there, but I never really got up to watching it because I thought it wasn't that good despite all the hype it was getting. Then after 17 episodes of it were out, I checked it on a whim and binged all 17 episodes in a single day. I don't remember the last time I watched that amount of episodes in a single day, and it took me quite by surprise because this anime didn't have anything flashy about it. It doesn't have any crazy hook in the first episode that'll make you want to watch it up to the end right from the get-go, like the first episode of Attack on Titan or Tokyo Ghoul, or some insane goal you'd want to see get accomplished, like how in shonen stories the authors get us excited through the AMC's motif, like finding the One Piece or being Hokage. The main character of this show just wants to rescue his sister who was eaten by a dragon. Intriguing, but it's not a motif that it would want to make you watch a lot of episodes to see the MC do that. So it got me asking, what was about this anime that is making me watch it? What about it is making me love this story so much? One thing I was certain about was that I really liked Leos as the protagonist. From the opening scenes of the first episode, he and his party are involved in an intense battle with a dragon, and in the midst of it, he is thinking about how he is hungry. He is spacing out as he is contemplating about food, which results in his sister saving him from the dragon attack and her being eaten by the dragon as a result. But this wasn't enough from dissuading me that Leos isn't your typical fantasy anime protagonist. Shortly after he wakes up from being teleported by his sister and was discussing of ways to rescue her with his remaining party, who were Chilchuk and Marcial, he asks them if she could be revived from poop. And the way he asked that nonchalantly gave me a feeling that Leos would be a different protagonist from what we usually get from your average anime, and I was not disappointed. I really like Leos, but I have to say, when I really thought about it, the reason the first episode of the show might grip viewers from the get-go is not because it has some crazy hook or some insane premise that makes you want to binge it. The reason Delicious in Dungeon grips you right from the first episode is that you can tell it's a well thought out story from the way that characters go about solving the hurdles they come across, and most of the time it comes in the shape of them fixing a meal for themselves by cooking monsters. The way Senshi talked about the ecology of the dungeon and the different anatomy of the monsters, him explaining what to do and what not to do when cooking them, was so good, and I did not expect it to be that interesting. The detail that has gone into crafting the story makes you engrossed in the world. It's brilliant. But not only the details that has gone into this world makes this anime very good, but also the characters. A character that stood out for me from the main five is Chilchuk. Chilchuk at first was this very useful, handy guy for the party. He's a rogue and is good at picking locks. He's the type of character that makes you feel safe when traveling through a dungeon because he's very knowledgeable and skillful when it comes to traversing a dungeon. He's a very practical person, so when he is faced with something that may threaten his life, he doesn't take any chances and he rather not engage at all. So after the altercation with the Red Dragon and Fallen was transformed into a monster by the lunatic magician and things were looking very grim, and he learns that the dark elf they encountered was the lunatic magician, Chilchuk cowers and plans to light them, and that was very interesting, and that moment alone added a lot of intrigue because that moment makes you realize that these characters are multidimensional. They are not all gung-ho, power of friendship, let's go straight to danger just because their friend is in trouble. I mean, that is a desirable trait to have, but this moment of cowardice from Chilchuk is very human and understandable and made me invested in the story even more. It creates conflict, and conflict is the major driver of drama, and that made it very interesting. interesting, and how Chilchuk is going to overcome this problem if ever he's faced with something similar. I'm very interested in how he is going to overcome it, because Chilchuk didn't want them to really die and he wasn't being honest with himself, but I hope there's more to it. But I'd like to see Chilchuk tested where he's in an uncomfortable situation and might need to gamble with his life. I think that would make for a really great character arc for Chilchuk. And another character that I adore is Marciel. She is sort of the mother figure of the group. She is more responsible than them. She takes care of them and rebukes them when they do something stupid, like when she advises Senshi to wash his hair in similar moments like that. Even though she has a motherly aspect to her character, she's sort of irresponsible, like how she doesn't know her limits and wants to help and fight even at her own detriment. I also love the way some anime tropes are subverted through her, like how she was attacked by the slime monster and it was not used for any fan service ecchi stuff. It was treated like a serious threat. Also, when she was strung up by the vines of the plant monster, nothing of the ecchi fan service trope was used that we are used to seeing in anime so much. It just tells you the author is so confident in what they are writing. They are not relying on those sorts of stuff to capture the audience's attention, and I respect that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the gags, like her having to put up with Leos's and Senshi's love for monster cuisine. Those gags never get old. Also, that moment when everyone was planning to eat and they spoke about doing that and she thought it meant wearing the frog costume, that was peak comedy. Also, I really love Senshi from the moment he was introduced in the story and he started making the meals in episode 1. His knowledge about the ecology and the environment of the dungeon really sparked my interest for the story. Also, I really love how he emphasizes on having 3 meals per day, like when he told the samurai dude it is really important to have 3 meals while there was high stakes going on. That was pretty hilarious. I mentioned before there not being any fan service in Delicious in Dungeon, but I lied. Also, Leos is an absolutely fantastic character. His weirdness makes this anime so much better. I love the moment when he was singing when they were in the 4th floor and the mermaids were put off by him and left. And I love the fact that him singing wasn't specified if it was just because he wanted to sing, because he felt like it, or it was because he didn't want to get controlled by their singing. That was a very funny moment. Also, when the samurai dude Shuro was explaining why he hates Leos due to him always unknowingly getting in the way between him and Leos' sister. That is such a Leos thing and it was great. The fact that their party scavenges for food and don't rely on supplies brought from outside the dungeon like the other parties makes the story so interesting, because it's sort of like a cheat code, them not relying on resources brought from the outside. And I absolutely love that about the show. They started doing this because they were desperate. They did not have enough time to get food supplies because Fallen's life was on the line, and so they had to resort to the scavenging tactic. And Senshi is obviously a big part of this. I do have to say, even if the reasoning for the scavenging makes sense, Senshi's introduction was a bit convenient. Like, they just stumbled upon a world-class monster chef just when they needed one the most. But I'll admit, I'm being a bit nitpicky here, and that being the only pet peeve I have about this show speaks to the quality of it. I can see people not liking this show because it might not be your typical adrenaline-filled fantasy anime, but there recently has been an anime that came out that is very slow-paced and many people seem to like it, including me. That anime being Free Reign Beyond Journey's End. So I'd like to think that Free Reign has accustomed people to giving shows like Dungeon Meshi a chance, because they have many similarities, the major one for me being the pacing. And I've seen in some places people comparing Dungeon Meshi to Shokugeki no Soma, and I kind of disagree, even though I can see why people are doing it. I mean, making food and cooking is a major aspect of both of these shows, but Dungeon Meshi is not all about that, so I kind of fear that people might think Dungeon Meshi is a pure cooking show and not give it a chance, because there is a lot more to it than that. For me, that thing being the world. It makes you ask a lot of questions about the world that increases the enjoyment of this journey, and episode 6 contributed to that. It got me asking a lot of questions like, what is the lunatic elf up to? Is he the one responsible for the downfall of the civilization that used to be the dungeon? Who is King Delgul? Was he the one who told the humans to defeat the evil elf? I was so intrigued by this. In episode 6, where Leos was moving from picture to picture trying to eat the foods in the paintings, that was a very compelling way to expand the world and make us intrigued in the mystery of this world. I'd go as far as to say it is good as Freerun. The only thing that might hamper this argument of mine is that thematically and emotionally Freerun has a bit of an edge, but Dungeon Meshi is as engaging as Freerun. Also, I've seen some people saying that Dungeon Meshi is made in Abyss for normies. I mean, it's not as dark as Made in Abyss, but to dismiss it as a quality story just because of that, I do not agree with. In summary, Delicious in Dungeon has a very solid cast of characters with a unique premise and a fresh concept for an anime, and I hope it gets a season 2 because I really love the show. Future Wave Lion talking here. I just saw on Twitter that season 2 has been greenlit. Let's freaking go. If you've made it this far into the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And with that said, see you in the next one.